Mike, after having a chance to look back and cut up the film and everything, how did you think the overall offense played, and specifically the offensive line? How do you think they did?
Well, I think kind of about what you saw out there. I mean, there was some really good things at times, and some things that weren't as good. The good things were, I'm sure, as Shane has probably talked about, we got off to a good start. Stayed out of the third downs and in that first drive, except for the last one. The negative plays are what kill you on offense. And that's what we preach about it. And even if you kind of get a little momentum, and then all of a sudden you have a negative play, then it kind of just stalls, and you're kind of you're playing behind the sticks. And so we got to avoid that. Try to avoid that much more than we did the other day. After the good start, we kind of fell into that a little bit. But I was proud of the way the guys just kind of continued to stay focused, stay dialed in. That's hard when things, the emotions of the game, how the way your feelings go after a drive when you score and then you come back and you go 3 and out, or you have a negative play or whatever, take a safety or whatever it is. You just got to kind of, and they did a good job with that. Now, it wasn't perfect by any means, but overall, obviously it's good to win, and it's all about winning and getting better, and that's kind of been the theme for today. And the offensive line was probably a microcosm of what I just talked about.
With Lenoris, what was sort of your talking points, or what were your talking points with him coming off the field after the safety?
Yeah, same thing. After the safety? Oh, I thought you said after the game. Yeah, I mean, just obviously, our number one goal is to get a first down, and the worst thing that can happen is take a safety. So we got to be better there, and all of us can be better offensively, coaching, me, and all of us. And so, yeah, I mean, it's but learn from it is the main thing. Hey, and once something like that happens, whether or not it's a safety, a negative play, a turn, whatever, you got to figure out what happened, why it happened, and then move on, and just it's in the past. There's nothing you can do about it. Go on and stay focused. And these are things we're going to talk about for the next drive moving forward.
Hi, Mike. The tight ends seem to be really involved in that first drive. What kind of went into that being one of the emphases of that first drive, and how much do you want to see those guys continue to be involved in the passing game as the season progresses?
Yeah, I just think it's kind of, we want to be very, as much as we can, very, whatever the word is, diversified. And, everybody that has the ability to touch the ball, we want to make sure that if teams are looking at us as an offense, that everybody is a target, not just certain receivers or backs or Lenoris or whatever. We need to be able to be balanced in that regard. So, and part of it, so we have to have that ability going into every game. And then, depending on how defenses play us, sometimes the ball goes to the running backs a little bit more, goes to the tight ends or the wide receivers. So, but just to have the ability going into a game and as coaches, and then collectively as an offense, but each guy individually, each position. Hey, you never know. In practice all week, you may have not. We may have run that same play, that same pass play, and you didn't get the ball all week, and then all of a sudden in the game, it's maybe a little bit different than what we thought. So I think that was, but that's up every week, and whether or not the tight ends are, first in the read or third in the read.
Was the plan going into the game to run Lenoris on design runs on a lot of those third and short, third and medium, fourth and short?
I think that, it just kind of, we want to have the ability to be able to have him, run the ball kind of at any time. There's not really any like, hey, this week we're going to run him a bunch in this situation, or run him a bunch, in this manner. I kind of said all along that, he is talented. He's a talented runner, but we want him, whether or not it's obviously a called quarterback run is different. But as far as him running the football on his own, we kind of want him running it because, he wants to, maybe, as opposed to, I didn't quite see the read correctly, so I just took off and ran. That's our goal of him getting better. He's very talented. There's a lot of quarterbacks in college and the NFL that that have the ability to do that, and I think probably every coach is kind of saying the same thing. So, but he did some some really good things there for us.
Oscar got a good bulk of the carries on Sunday and a couple of drives where he was heavily featured in the run and the pass game. What do you kind of see from him throughout practice and who he is as a runner to give you confidence to feature him that much?
Yeah, he's been probably, and that group's a good group. I'll say that to start with. They worked hard and they played physical. They played really hard the other day, physical. And he's probably been the most consistent throughout, going back to day one of spring ball. And he's got a very, kind of a lunch pail mentality of just, being that steady force, whether or not it's, running the football, catching it, pass protecting. So, you kind of want guys like that. And again, it's not really ever dictated kind of, especially we talked about the running backs last week on how we're going to kind of substitute those guys. It's just kind of the game starts one way, and then sometimes you have certain plays for like Oscar or maybe for Rasul or whoever, Isaiah, whoever. And then and then after that, we just kind of let it go. And the biggest thing for us is, hey, let's stay on the field so they all can kind of get into a groove. But he's been really good. He's been a steadying force.
You mentioned it. Were there a lot of times during the game where Lenoris ran and maybe you didn't want him to, or?
No, I mean, probably not more than some of the other games in the past. But yeah, it's just you kind of look at after the game, kind of how many touches he has and all that kind of stuff, and then you kind of look at how many called runs you have, and so I don't think there's any exact science to it. Going back to some of the other guys I've been around that I've coached or been with coaches that have coached quarterbacks, it's just he's a weapon, both throwing the ball and running the ball. So we want to make sure we use that, but we also want to kind of keep him healthy. We want to keep him healthy.
Mike, during the game, there was obviously what looked like a touchdown catch called back. There was another one the previous night in the Clemson LSU game. What's your opinion of that catch rule? And, what do you tell your receivers when it looks like they got one and they didn't?
Yeah, you know what? I really don't. I got enough to worry about with the offense and getting those guys ready. I was telling somebody, I literally did not even look at the scoreboard. I didn't look at anybody else. I was just kind of pacing back and forth. I was, if it had been second down, I was getting ready. I was getting ready for third down call. That's all you can do. You can't control that. So get ready with what you can't control. Now that one was going to be 4th and 9. So just kind of hoping, but that stuff happens, and you have to. We tell our players, hey, no matter what happens, you got to go until that clock strikes 0. You got to your mindset after that play's over. Your mindset's got to be on to the next play, whatever it is, and not get caught up in the emotions. You can't do that after the game. So if we ask our players to do that, we need to do that as coaches too.
After the game, I think Coach Beamer referenced something from camp, referring to the touchdown to Nick, where I think Hunter shared a coaching point with Lenoris. Not to use that phrase again, but I think maybe you encouraged Hunter to go up to Lenoris at one point during camp and say, hey, let it go when you see him there. Do you remember that specific?
You probably got to get Hunter up here and get his press conference. I'll let him answer that.
But with that play, how obviously it's a big play and kind of puts the score at a full margin. But how do you, I guess, sum up the way things came together to make that possible on Sunday?
He did a good job reading the play. It was it's kind of like a lot of pass plays in the game. You kind of have certain plays where you're trying to look one way, and if they give you the deep ball, and you throw it. There's other times when we were trying to throw the ball deep, and they were really, really soft. That one, Nick did a great job, and Lenoris made a great throw, and we were able to get behind the defense. But we were fortunate on that play.
What do you think the freshman receivers learned by just being in a college football game?
Yeah, so it's I can only imagine. I try to put myself in their shoes, in their last year at this time, what they were doing, and even at the end of last year compared to what they just went through and the experience that they had in first time against a really, really good football team in that atmosphere in that stadium. I mean, that was really cool. So I thought for the most part they did a good job. I probably about what we expected. Obviously, we all want to be more productive and as receivers and freshmen, as coordinators and all that. But it's just good to kind of get going now and get those guys in and playing. So each week, as we all know, with whatever we're doing, we should be better at what we're doing through experience. And I think that was probably the best thing about that. So on to week 2 for those guys.
Mike, Shane was in here yesterday saying that some of the other tight ends besides Michael Smith had been a little bit more efficient in practice last week, leading to more reps. What do you need to see from Michael to have him get more reps, more catches potentially?
Yeah, it's a competitive room. It really is. So, he's getting better each and every day. But, there's other guys that are competing. And, we talk to all of our guys about, and Shane handled, he talks depth chart wise, but we just ask all our guys to just be ready when your number is called, and you never know, and whether or not you're going to get 30 plays or 15 plays or whatever. So he's like a lot of guys that he's still young. We kind of forget about it. He's still a young guy, and he's been battling injuries in the past, and he's coming back into it. He's just continuing to work on getting into that groove that we all want our players to get into. And in the meantime, we've got some guys that have had a lot of reps with Brady and Jordan. And so we're kind of keep working that mix.
What's the balance going into this week after just 2 receivers catch a pass? How much do you want to just keep on the same thing, and how much are you trying to make sure that guys touch a ball?
Yeah, I mean, it's in an ideal world they all get several touches, and there's only one football, and that's a tough thing if you're playing a position that you might not get as many touches. Obviously, the only guys are going to touch every play are the center and the quarterback, and then the running back kind of the same. You can have the same question for the running back. So you want to get them all in the mix as fast as you can, but you also don't want to predetermine that and force the issue. And in the meantime, you're kind of giving up things. You're not exactly in the best play. So we kind of want to let it unfold. We obviously, as you watch tape, you think you can kind of there's certain ways you can attack in a defense. You can try to put guys in that position of what they do best. But in the meantime, we're asking our guys, hey, continue to get better at, with everything in your own game. So in that way, that way you're not going to just do this, you just do that. So, it just happens each and every week, how you, there's no predetermining. You don't want to do that. That's the thing I've learned over the years. But for us, more so than anything, kind of like I said earlier, just let's make first downs, stay out of negative plays, make first downs, and stay on the field. All right.